Welcome to Above and Below, the podcast of the Construction Industry Alliance for Suicide Prevention. My name is Sonya Bohmann, and I am the Executive Director of CIASP. And again, joining me is my co-host, Zulq Malik, and our friend, Kathy Martin from Above. So I'll let you introduce yourselves. Zulq, take it away.
Awesome. So, Sonya, I never do this to you. You're my co-host today.
Oh.
I get to have a conversation with one of my Canuck friends, right?
Deal.
So for all those in America, that's what we refer to ourselves, our fellow Canadians. We're Canucks. I'm excited. I'm not only a board member on CIASP, where all of us board members are volunteer-based positions. We're all trying to further the cause and have that open conversation around the challenges of mental health. How do we prevent suicide? And, you know, we just recently recorded a podcast. We're even going to be talking about postvention. When it doesn't work, it goes wrong. So we'll see how the order of this works. But I'm happy to introduce a colleague in the industry, somebody from Toronto area, right, Kathy?
Yep.
Yeah. Kathy Martin. Go for it, Kathy.
Hi, my name is Kathy Martin. I'm really pleased to be here. Thanks for the invitation. I work for a company called the Infrastructure Health and Safety Association. It's one of the many health and safety associations in Ontario, but across Canada as well, that's looking at supporting the industry. So when I say the industry, I'm of course talking about the construction industry, but IHSA is fortunate to also support the transportation and electrical utilities in Ontario. So thanks again for having me. And just for those listening, I'm their workplace mental health and wellness specialist at the IHSA.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, Kathy. We can just jump right in there. We want to talk about some of the conversations that we're having. We know that the Ontario General Contractors Association, which happens to, I guess, be one of the largest associations for construction in Canada, given the fact that geographically it represents the most populous province in Canada. And I know people out west are going to get offended by it, but it's the truth. We didn't make up the numbers. The numbers are real. So I know that the OGCA has recently put out their Unmasked Mental Health program. And I know that you're part of it and you're instrumental in as part of the IHSA. So maybe you can share a little bit about what we're doing up here, because what we do up here permeates into what happens down there. And just like what stuff happens down in the south, it permeates up north. So it's a great way for the two countries to collaborate.
Absolutely. Collaboration is really key when it comes to many issues. But when we're talking about mental health and suicide prevention, it's crucial. And yeah, we've been learning from the States as well as other countries, the UK and Australia. They've been doing some really great work. And in Canada, we realize we're no different. Construction is pretty much the same across the board. It doesn't matter where you live. And, you know, the Ontario General Contractors Association is just one of the many that have come forward to IHSA and say, hey, you know, the industry's struggling. We know many of the risk factors and things within the industry that are, you know, causing harm to our workers. But, you know, what do we do? And I think that's the big piece. And so the campaign that we launched really was a campaign from the Ontario Construction Industry Suicide Prevention Roundtable. It's a bit of a mouthful, but really it's a group of individuals that are passionate about making change in this area. And they, you know, hold some power, to be honest, in their organizations and within their companies. So we have company that, like I said, the Ontario General Contractors, but Multiplex, we have LivingWorks, we have yourselves at the table. So we're having some really great conversations in Ontario, and it's spreading. It's spreading to other areas in Canada. So we're really encouraged by that.
So one thing that we have very common here, that no different than it is anywhere else in the world, we have a sector that's made up 95% probably of small, medium enterprises. And then we have the 5% that are, you know, we want them to be the leadership. But I think one of these things that, you know, would be good talking about, I know that there's some companies that are leading the charge on the Canadian side. And that's just because they're the larger organizations and they have resources available. But this is obviously a message for all the small, medium enterprises that we need to start somewhere. So is there anything you could share with them today, Kathy, that would say, hey, this is not just Ellis Dawn or the PCLs of the world in Canada. This is a conversation for everybody else because they make up the bulk of the ecosystem.
Well, absolutely. I mean, there's some really concrete actions I think anybody can take. Doesn't matter if you're small, large, medium. And, you know, one of them is just to start the conversation and use tools like toolbox talks. You guys have some great toolbox talks. IHSA has developed several. We need to start demystifying mental health and substance use health and really just talk about it. And we haven't been traditionally, I think, comfortable and exposed to talking about it. I know I can speak to that personally. I'm of a generation where we didn't talk about it. And so I've had to learn, like many people, and I've been fortunate to have a career built around helping people start those conversations. So talk, train a couple people to be those trusted members that people can go to. Because again, getting access to early support really has a lot to do with busting the stigma, being able to reach out, feeling comfortable to reach out. And sometimes having that trust of one or two colleagues that can kind of guide you along the journey and to help you get that support is really important. And I can't stress it enough, anybody people leading, in a supervisory role or, boots on the ground, managing the guys on the ground and the girls on the ground, make sure that they have some basic training, some real basic understanding. And that doesn't have to be full day training. That can be as simple as some micro training, little bites and pieces. And IHSA developed a training called Opening the Door to Support to really help get that micro level training out there in the field. And think about, how do I get people care in my community? The ability to access care in most communities is challenging. So know what your community offers if you're a small business. I think that's the plus for small businesses. You work within usually within a certain geographical area. You can find those resources and hopefully build some relationships if needed.
I guess you kind of fed me. You teed up the question right up for me. So I'm going to say this right now. Here's a plug. Sonya, I know you're going to say hashtag 988.
Yep.
Oh, there is hashtag 988. Well, we'll say international. We're sure it's in Canada and the United States. It is a free to dial number that for anyone that's listening here today, guess what? Have that on your safety boards on your job sites.
It's call, text, or chat.
Sorry?
Call, text, or chat. You can reach 988.
Really? You can text them too?
You can answer the call and they can answer the communication in over 250 languages, including sign language.
That's awesome. Amazing. So, hey, I learned something today. I thought it was, dial because I'm still the old generation. Why would I text anyone? But yes, there's a whole generation of workers that's how they communicate is through text. So yeah, hashtag 988. And it's good in Canada. It's good in the United States. And we have listeners on both sides of the wall. So we want to make sure that you do know that that's your basic resource. That's your starting point. But
so something to know about 988 is that it's not just for a mental health crisis. You can also reach out to 988 if you are with someone who's in crisis, you're worried about someone who's in crisis, or if you are experiencing a substance use or substance misuse crisis as well.
Oh, thank you, my co-host Sonya. I get to say it today. I'm so excited. So which kind of leads us to the next phase. This is one of the distinguishing facts between Canadian entities and American entities. Extended health programs are part of a subset of what we do here in Canada. So we have what we call primary care that's available through our governments, and it's part of our tax structure. So we don't really think about that as Canadians. And I know in the United States, medical insurance and all these conversational pieces are real. And some of them are available, some of them are not available, some of them are affordable, some of them are not affordable. In Canada, we have extended health benefits. And Kathy, I want to bring up this conversation about EAPs, employee assistance programs, right? And we use that to complement what we do in our extended health programs. So maybe you could share for the betterment of the audience what employee assistance programs are, what they're capable of doing. And I'm also going to share a little insight after she's done about that, about companies that are actually adopting that, putting that into company, and share maybe some of the pricing they have on that.
Yeah. So an EAP program really is that kind of like a one-stop shop, if you will, for mental health services for employers. It really has a wraparound set of services that can support the employer and the employees. So it really helps with immediate access to short-term counseling. I wouldn't call it therapy. That's usually more extended, goes through insurance benefits. There's, like I said, nuances between the two countries. But there's usually tons of services there to kind of information and articles to get people aware of what's available. But I think what's happening in Canada anyways, and the literature's really building, is that having stepped care is critical for giving people options. So we just talked about 988 having both like the dial in and the text. Well, the EAPs are recognizing that they have to have multiple types of programs and services available. So some have digital apps where you can access some of their programs virtually, where you don't have to talk to anybody, but you just, here you go, here's a program you can dabble and try, or you can have some sessions with a counselor. So that's just a little bit about EAPs, but building those step care and having options for workers is really critical.
Yeah, I want to say something. There's some notable contractors that never really get mentioned in Toronto. I used to work for a company called Canadian Contracting many, many moons ago. Aidan Flatley, which was the Aidan that's part of Canadian. They had the foresight and the vision to create an EAP program in 1990, subscribe to an EAP program in I'm going to say it's around 1998, 99. So I'm dating myself here a little bit. And I was one of the younger people in the organization, if you can imagine. Sonya, I was younger once. I had more hair. Okay. And I didn't understand it from a couple of reasons. Age. I was high on life in the sense that, I was a young guy enjoying life, traveling, working, great job, lots of money, fancy cars, all that other stuff. So I didn't understand that this was a program, though, when they implemented it, say, hey, Zulq, we're going to be doing this. I'm like, why are we wasting our money? And when we got the statistics back, and this is in the 90s, right? And I'm sharing some information here that I'm absolutely positive that they don't care that this is going out there. But the fact that there were so many people calling with crisis-related incidences, right? Could be substance abuse. It could have been domestics. It could be just personal well-being. That it was a real number. And this was in 1998, 1999, roughly. And I thought, wow, how visionary is that? And today, the reason I'm bringing this up is one of our clients, I'm not going to name their names, for Smart Build, they just shared with us that they subscribe to an EAP program for all of their employees. And I went out there and I go, what is this costing you? Like, we had an open conversation around this. Look, what is this costing you? And he says, it's costing me around $650 a month for all of my team. And his team is probably about 50 deep. And he goes, it's credit, it's tokenized program. He goes, so I prepaid for all these tokens. He goes, I don't get upset if I have to go over those token limits. I'm happy to give them more. He goes, the first couple of months, people were using it. And then then there was a stoppage in usage. He goes, then my question was, is your life so perfect that you don't need to use it? I want you guys to use it. So yeah, I know he's a member of the OGCA. And he, for $650 a month, made this program available to all his team. And he's encouraged them, guys, if you're not feeling well, you just want to talk, just talk to someone. You're feeling a little anxious, talk to them. So that caring culture that he's created in his company, I know that IHSA supports Canadian companies to do this, and I know that we want to be able to support more of this on anything. But are you seeing an uptake of EAP programs for small, medium enterprises? And if so, how can they get resources around that, Kathy?
Yeah. I think there's been an uptake for sure. And there's several different EAPs out there. And one of the best ways, I think, to get access to it is to look at your benefit provider. So if you're offering an EAP, often I would say the majority of folks also have benefits. And so that would be like your life insurance benefits, right? Your access to psychological services or to physiotherapists, those types of benefits. Most of those insurance companies here in Canada are already partnered up with an EAP. So they'll be able to help you, I would say, get access to the EAPs. But you don't have to necessarily go that route if you don't have benefits, but you still want an EAP provider. Google's a great tool. AI is a great tool to really just help you filter down what's available, right? Just ask AI, what's available in your area, right? Of whichever province you are in EAPs, and then do some comparison. And then pick up the phone and call, because like you said, it doesn't have to be expensive to get some access to some services. And some of your local community providers have some smaller, like community-based EAPs as well, which could also be an option.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I'm just going to kind of flip the script. 5 years from now, where do you vision for support in mental health and construction?
Well, 5 years seems far. So, I'm going to take a different approach on this question. I think next week, if you could run one toolbox talks, would be great. In 30 days, consider training one or two people in your workplace on peer support or assist the suicide prevention training, safe talk. Get people, in the organization train, not just relying on EAPs, because a lot of times we do just rely on our EAPs. And then, like, in 60, 90 days, make sure that you know that pathway to support for your workers, right? Know the pathway if you're not sure. And that is like having an EAP, right? That's one pathway. Having 988 stickers and posters up, it is another way to support that pathway. Are your HR people trained on mental health? Build that pathway, is all I'm saying. There's different ways to do that. And then 5 years, I'd like to see that there's ongoing participation from the construction industry in things like the Suicide Prevention Week, right? That you guys host the second week of September. Having more people involved in those conversations and it being something that's just everybody does, right? You don't think about it, would be really great in 5 years. Having those campaigns out there and having some metrics, having more companies come forward to your point that you talked about your past company, having some metrics. What's been the EAP uptake if you get a EAP or if you have one? Are people utilizing it?
How do you
what's
drive
the number of
utilization?
team-up steps?
Right.
Yeah, I think there's two sides. There's a cultural change too, right? We have to create
Yeah.
that drive, and then we have to utilize the drive, right?
Absolutely. You can you can build the system, but if people aren't tapping into it or they don't trust it, then there becomes some cynicism on both sides, right? The employer and the employee. So I think you really need to zone in as well on some of the prevention stuff around psychological health and safety, climate, right? Building that climate takes effort and work, and there's tools out there to help you with that.
What do you think the first step in doing that would be? If you want to switch that culture and you want to get that utilization, Kathy, what's the first step a company could do? What is the one thing to start with?
Maybe this is a little self-promotion, but I would say go to the IHSA website and review the employer toolkit that's there.
Okay.
Just educate yourself. There's so many tools and resources out there. It can get a little overwhelming. So, I've done the work. I've done, some of the triaging for you to make it simple. And it's very much keeping construction in mind, right? When that was put together.
And it's not behind a paywall, right, Kathy?
No. There's no cost to it. Free download PDF. Just have a look. It's just right there on the website. And I'll give you some tools. One of our main tools in Canada is the CSA standard for psychological health and safety. It's a great tool for people in the occupational health and safety world to adopt. It's really just taking, psychosocial hazards and adding those into your hazard assessment that you're already doing. So it's a occupational health and safety standard, like I said, designed to integrate, not to be off to the side, but to integrate into what you're already doing. So start doing that. If you start taking baby steps now, in 5 years, you'll be so much farther ahead with your culture, that culture of psychological safety. So something to consider. Again, up in more of the prevention, we can often talk about suicide intervention, right? And prevention. And that's great, but it can be a bit reactive. We want to get upstream. And that's where I would say the psychological health and safety piece is really, really important. So again, check out the employer toolkit, guide you through some things you can consider.
So that's a tip for an employer. What's a tip for an employee or a craft worker?
I think, again, it's very similar. It's about education, and self-reflection, I think, is really important. What's stopping me from asking for help when I think I need it? Because we need to challenge ourselves. I think we're our worst enemies sometimes. And, we have a lot of stoicism and sort of that masculinity piece that both men and women buy into. And, we need to challenge some of those norms. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say I'm hurting. And just to challenge your self-reflection. And there's tools to do that out there as well. I have to say we have a worker toolkit. So start there. Learn about EAP. Yeah.
I switch up without even knowing it.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a worker toolkit, and we actually have a supporter toolkit too. So if you're concerned about somebody and you're not sure what to do, a lot of people are scared to intervene or to say something. So we have a toolkit that helps people feel a little more confident and comfortable and being able to reach out.
Thank you for sharing that, Kathy. And I think I know that we collaborate between both organizations of CIASP and IHSA. I had the benefit of having one foot on each side of the border. I don't know if that's good or bad right now lately, but Sonya, maybe we'll make sure that we grab some of those kids and we can be part of our toolbox. I know you're directing people to our traffic, but there's a co-relationship that exists because this is a conversation for the entire ecosystem, right? And we're all connected. And we're connected through a common cause, is that we're responsible for building and constructing everything that people are living on and walking on. So thanks for sharing your resources.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And I think it's important to note, like, my organization, we are a prevention organization at IHSA. We are trying to prevent and address hazards, right? So it fits for us to really promote psychological health and safety. But we can't do it in isolation and forget the immediate needs. And I really love the stuff that you guys are doing, because you're really doing a lot of that wraparound, right? Helping prevent harm from happening, immediate harm. And I think there is that synergy, right? Working together collaboratively, filling the gaps, right?
That's right. We're stronger together, certainly.
Yeah, exactly. Stronger together.
More people having the conversation in a prevention, intervention, or postvention space. And we've started dabbling into conversations in all of those. Kathy, you did talk about some intervention strategies, though, two of which you listed from LivingWorks. So I did want to touch on that. If somebody wanted to start their LivingWorks journey, LivingWorks actually has a program called Start, which is the very first step in that. And you can actually take that for free on our website. And then from there, you can look at Safe Talk that you mentioned, or even Assist. And they're great tools to really kind of take those next steps in being that person that's the helper on a job site.
Yeah. And I think, as a person who was in the industry for a long time, who had a construction company, knowing that we have resources is great. But I think I'm going to speak on behalf of those that are too scared to start the resource and the discussion. Start. These are all available to you free of charge. There's people that are willing to help you once you pick up the phone and ask them for help. They will point you into all kinds of directions. They might even give you a little bit of a push and a nudge to get you rocking and rolling, because together we're going to make this happen. So for all the small, medium enterprises out there, even the large enterprises out there, it's beholden on us to take advantage of CIASP, IHSA, any of the LivingWorks. I mean, the list is so long. They've done the research. They've validated it. If you don't believe it's real, you know what? In today, the AI, I think Kathy says it, Google it. You just search it. Yeah. Right. This is not
Go to one of our websites. You can find the majority of the information you're looking for, either at IHSA's website or CIASP's website. You'll have a plethora of free tools.
Yeah. And if you don't believe that this is real, I'm going to say, pull your head out of the sand. This is a real conversation. This is really happening. Suicide is a real thing in construction as an industry. Mental health degradation is very real, and it's extremely real in construction. So it's very important for us as leaders, and a first-year journeyman or first-year apprentice, not a journeyman, a first-year apprentice is still a leader, because there's somebody who joins in the year after him. So we all take on a leadership role, and it's not too late to start at any stage to say, okay, I want to lead the next. And I know we had a conversation about mentoring and mentees. Our industry has been very based on mentoring for a very long time, since the beginning of time that we've had this mentorship concept. We just now have to be confident to speak about it, that this is part of the toolkit that we're going to give our workers, right?
Absolutely.
So Sonya always has this. We tend to end the conversations around words of the year. So we each have adopted a word of the year. Kathy, don't know if you have one or there's one that you live with, but we're going to put you on the spot because that's the best thing we can do. So I'm going to normally Sonya goes, so I get to go last today.
Okay.
So Sonya, your word of the year, so you can inspire Kathy in case she just doesn't have it.
My word of the year is intentionality. And it is something that I have used to guide the choices that I make for myself, for my family, for CIASP for this last year, and really being intentional about where we spend our time and our energy and the places and spaces that we go.
Kathy, now the ball's in your court.
Well, you usually give her yours too to kind of.
No. I'm going to use mine last, and I get to wrap it up. Sorry, Sonya. Right. I'm the host. You're my co-host.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a great question. I think my word of the year really is and something I've been reflecting on is connection. Yeah, so that would be my word. And I guess reasoning, well, there's a couple of reasons. We all need connection in our lives, right? We're social creatures. We need connection. And I find it causes many of our sorrows in our world when we have that feeling of disconnection from others and even ourselves, really. And so for me, connection is really important. And, you know, I want to be also a connection for people at work and people in my industries that I serve. Again, we've talked about tools and resources, but sometimes the best resource is the person sitting next to you or the person on the other end of the phone. It doesn't have to be a toolbox or a toolkit. Sometimes it's just having that connection and that conversation. I learn more from people around me than I do sometimes from all the reading. Yeah, so, you know, I just want to stay connected and grow and learn how to better connect with myself even.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Kathy. And for those of you who have been following our podcast, my word is still grateful. I don't know if I'm going to change it for 2026 because I'm just grateful I'll get there. But my word for it is grateful, Kathy. I'm grateful that we're having this conversation today. I try to exercise gratitude and gratefulness every morning when I wake up. I'm just grateful that I'm awake. But I have so many things to be grateful for that I just take the moment to be grateful for all of those. And I'm going to say, thank you so much. I'm grateful that technology worked today and we got this podcast.
That's right. Me too.
I'm grateful that Sonya picked me to be on the board. I don't think she knew what she was up to when she decided and she picked me. Right.
And I'm grateful we can connect with one another.
Thank you. And you know what? That was
They're
intentional.
Connection. That's right.
So on that note, thank you so much, Kathy, for making time available to connect with us today. We're grateful, and intentionally this is going to hopefully work out because we all are intending for this to be a better community and ecosystem for everyone that gets up there and goes and does what they do to make this world a better place. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.